Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and a new edition of our online interview series. We want to get an update of Vizsla Silver, and Michael Konnert, the CEO, is here with us. Good morning to New York, actually. How are you?
Hi, Jochen. I'm doing very well. Good to see you. I'm happy to be on your show.
Yeah, thanks for having you again here. That is great. I'm a shareholder in the company. I want to disclose that upfront. And of course, the share price is the share price, and that's the market. But despite that, you guys had a lot of success in drilling. And of course, we want to get an update what's going on with the company, especially with Copala, Napoleon, etc. Can you give us a short insight here, please?
Yeah, well, it's been a very exciting year for us here. We've, in January announced our second resource,
Hmm.
which is now the world's largest undeveloped high-grade silver resource,
Hmm.
which is an incredible distinction. I think it just shows what's possible in this district with 2.5 short years of drilling. Now, we're currently drilling with 7 rigs on the property, and these drill rigs are focused on primarily resource expansion. So we're
Hmm.
85% of our drilling is expanding the known resources and making new discoveries. So very high impact, high value drilling for the company. And we've made new discoveries like La Luisa. We're
Hmm.
growing Copala, which is an absolute monster of a discovery, a 10-meter thick vein that runs for over a kilometer. We haven't found the natural limitations of it yet. It's really quite incredible, and the grade is essentially half a kilo there. So crazy discovery at Copala that's growing. New discovery at La Luisa, which is excellent, and that's growing. Napoleon's growing.
Hmm.
So this is a year where we're seeing a lot of fundamental value creation
Hmm.
happening at the company, and you know for whatever reason the share price is on sale here, so we're basically buying stock, and I just bought stock a few weeks ago
Hmm.
at less than the price that we raised money at upon the original discovery. So there's a lot of value being created here. The market isn't effectively and realistically demonstrating that value, and I think this is quite likely one of these rare times where the stock you can get the stock at an absolute bargain of a price.
Yeah, definitely. I see it the same way. What I found also interesting is if I look at your last press release, 10th of May from Copala, you had super high grade silver, but in association with gold. Yeah. And if I look now at La Luisa, all of a sudden you have still fantastic rates of silver, fantastic rates of gold, but now lead and zinc in addition. What makes the difference here? From where does that come?
Well, the gold to silver ratio that we see here is typically tied to the elevation or of the zonation, or
Hmm.
where we are in the zonation of the epithermal mineralization. Napoleon, we see higher gold to silver closer to surface at the
Hmm.
top of that zones, the top zone of that mineralization, and based on the orientation, at least this is how we understand it, that some of the veins have a certain orientation, and those veins tend to hold base metals like
Hmm.
Napoleon and La Luisa have similar orientations. We suspect that that's because they have, similar age of depositation of the minerals there. And Copala, for instance, doesn't have base metals, or has very, very low base metals, and that has a different orientation than Napoleon and La Luisa.
Hmm.
So, it's interesting that you see this. This really means that we have a major mineral system here that has multiple mineralizing events, which is a
Hmm.
signature of some of the, the best. It's a similar signature as some of the major districts in Mexico, like Fresnillo and others. So, I take this as a very good sign.
Hmm.
It actually doesn't affect the metallurgy. We basically would have just one or a very simple flow sheet and processing center for both styles of mineralization. The ore is
Hmm.
relatively similar, so we're in an excellent position with this, and we do have some small amounts of base metals. About 5% of the overall economics are base metals, but really. It's predominantly silver, primary
Hmm.
silver, and has a significant gold credit.
Hmm. Super. Yeah, I hear already processing and metallurgy, so that brings me, of course, to the question which a lot of shareholders are asking themselves: when will we see the next step towards production? Meaning, let's say a PEA, for example. What do you need more to do that? Yeah, because I mean, you have drilled so much that must look like Swiss cheese.
Well, you'd think so. It sounds like that, but what's incredible is that the resource sits on only 10% of the known veins.
Hmm.
We haven't even really done that infill drilling yet. So it may sound like Swiss cheese, but really, in the grand scale of this overall district, it's such a small portion of the known veins. So, you know, even as we move this into production, there will still be more discoveries made, I believe. And this is one of these signature long-lived districts in Mexico. So, but having said that, everything that we do is really moving towards that end game of production, and including this exploration drilling. I'm personally, and it's early to make these statements. We don't have an economic assessment out. We don't have production studies, but I'll talk about maybe my opinion here. And my opinion
Hmm.
is that you know that this is going to be one of these very large producers for silver in Mexico, and so we're making steps towards that. And the reason we're looking to expand the resources that we have already and go towards a target is that we see a large throughput possible here. In excess of some of the recent mines that came online and into production in Mexico recently. So you know we in order to get to a mine plan and to put this material through a mill and be a large producing company and meet these throughput targets that we have internally. In order to do that, we need to first of all find a large resource. Then we need to upgrade that through drilling
Hmm.
into reserve status. Now that's what we're doing. Of course, we are drilling. We're expanding these resources, and in the future we'll look to upgrade those resources into reserves when the time is right. But in the background, we've completed already Napoleon and Tajitos metallurgy and announced that Copala metallurgy is expected shortly as well. This upcoming resource update towards the end of the year is preceding a PEA. So, we are getting close to these milestones like a PEA, and a
Hmm.
PEA I think would likely kick off the next steps and moving towards production, such as potential underground bulk tonnage testing. Getting underground and seeing the vein, that would be important for us. Now we've done hydrological studies, we've done geotechnical studies, we've done all these ecological flora and fauna studies. That's all been underway for better part of 2 years now.
Hmm.
So we are quite advanced. We're more advanced than most companies would be at this stage. And even part of that is that we have 4 of the 5 ejidos in this district under. We've been able to come to really fantastic agreements with them where we have 30 years of production agreements in place that cover our resources with the ejidos. So if anybody follows Mexican mining, how important that is to have the
Hmm.
ejidos and the communities on side. So we've done a lot of that work um, where others would have waited and not been able to accomplish this.
Hmm.
We've done that quite early. So although yes, we are exploring, we're drilling. I think it's important for shareholders to understand that we are very aggressively de-risking this project and moving it towards that production decision.
Hmm. And you have the money to do so, to bring out, let's say, a resource estimate, a new one, and the PEA then probably next year somewhere?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. The share price is awful. I'm not happy about it. I've been buying the stock. I bought stock recently at about 20 cents higher than where we are right now. Um, but a positive thing is that we don't have to go to the market. We're funded. We have about $48 million in the bank. We're funded for our operational objectives, which are to put out the resource at the end of the year, and then follow that with an internal scoping study, or initial scoping study, a PEA.
Hmm.
And by doing that and being funded, it means that we don't have to come to the market for at least 12 months. So we're in excellent shape in that sense. And I'm encouraged by that. If you were a company that had to finance, do major financing at these share price levels, that would be frustrating and dilutive. Fortunately for Vizsla, we're not in that shape, and we've been prudent with capital raises in order to ensure that we're not in a dire position financially.
Okay, super. That's great. I think that's even super important because a lot of companies have to dilute themselves to death, and that would be horrible for such a great project you have. And we definitely want to see you as the next big silver producer here in Mexico. That's for sure. So for
Yeah.
the next, let's say 6 months, is the most important part is really to drill out for the resource estimate. You said by the end of the year that would come out.
Yeah, we're targeting the end of this year for an updated resource.
Okay, so until when can you include then drill core or drill results?
Well, it's a good question. We haven't, we haven't put a cutoff date in place yet, but it's pretty active, and the labs, as you might expect, have improved. From that COVID 2020 to 2021, it was substantial delays. Some labs have improved, and so I suspect that we can get a fair bit of drilling into this resource before the cutoff, but we're still about halfway through the year, and we're targeting towards the end of the year.
Okay, super. I mean, if I look at your press releases with all those drill results, that must be a new phenomenal resource update, to be honest, because if every drill it looks to me like is almost a hit, right?
We have a very high success rate. It must be industry leading at Copala.
Hmm.
Copala is really an
Hmm.
excellent structure that we're drilling, and La Luisa, we've been very successful with our drilling as well, and
Hmm.
Napoleon. So, I'm excited about this upcoming resource, and of course,
Hmm.
that'll set the stage for next steps as well too.
Okay, super. Let's talk shortly about politics, because I think one of the things of the new mining law in Mexico is that you can no longer have the mining concession for 50 years. Now it went down to 30, and I heard it already. You have now 30-year agreements with four of the five ejidos. And anything else you are worried about, or do you say no? For you guys, nothing has really changed with the new law.
Well, if I were in the position of wanting to go and personally stake some ground and file for a concession in Mexico, that would be concerning with the new mining reform. But since we already have our concessions granted, and the law, as generally understood by the legal community and politicians in Mexico, is that existing concessions are grandfathered. This isn't actually as concerning as you might think for a company like Vizsla. So we'll have probably something more to talk about on that in the future. But right now, what I can say is that the concessions are protected under the existing, even the mining reform. It refers to the existing concessions as grandfathered, where the reform has more to deal with new concessions. And so, if anything, it actually increases the value of existing concessions because new concessions are that much harder to get. So, um, you know, there's a lot of I think uncertainty and frustration around mining reform. I suspect that it's not going to be as major of an issue as what people think it will be. And it's important to know that both Meg Silver and Silvercrest permitted and entered into production, under this administration of AMLO. So, new mines, new silver mines, new underground silver mines in Mexico are getting permitted and built under this administration. So, I suspect that that's going to continue to be the case. And I wouldn't be investing, buying the stock, and you know, we wouldn't be
Absolutely.
investing this money in the company if we didn't think that was the case.
Yeah, definitely. No, I see it the same way. Last question, and that is more about the silver market. What is your personal view? Maybe you had contact with the Silver Institute, I don't know, but it looks to me like that the market is tightening so extremely now. If I look at last year, 238 million ounces were in the deficit. For this year, I heard already 400 million ounces in deficit. So I'm wondering from where shall all the silver come, which we need for solar, photovoltaic, e-mobilities, high-techs, electronics, whatever. So what's your view on that?
Well, yeah, I've been in on the East Coast here in New York for the past few weeks, marketing Vizsla to institutions primarily. But I was able to, as I did a roadshow south from New York, I was able to spend some time with the Silver Institute in Washington D.C. and really enjoyed meeting that group in person because I use their data from that survey that they complete every year. It's fantastic data. They do great work, and it's incredible because the deficit that we're seeing, first of all, is a record deficit for silver. And it's driven almost primarily not only by the industrial application, but by investment as well. Too, investment is actually driving a significant portion of the demand for silver. But where you're seeing the most growth is photovoltaics for solar
Mm-hmm.
panels and for
Mm-hmm.
electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're already at a major deficit, and the demand for these things continue to rise.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only so much silver out there.
Yes.
It's getting harder and harder to
Yeah.
mine as a byproduct. The majority of silver is supplied as a byproduct through large copper porphyries, essentially in South America. Now, I don't. You probably see the mining news. It's getting harder to operate big copper porphyries and
Yep.
put them into production in South America. Um, these mines are also getting deeper and lower
Mm.
grade and
Mm.
more expensive to mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we're seeing a lot of supply disruption for silver, and we're seeing a
Mm-hmm.
huge amount of demand growth. So, it's not only silver, it's pretty much every metal, but all these inventories are dwindling. But I think silver is going to continue to have these deficits in place, as well as continue to be more and more important for the electrification of the world. So
Mm.
I'm very bullish on silver. I'm the most bullish on silver out of any metal. And these meetings that I've been having and meeting with the Silver Institutes, it's only confirmed,
Mm-hmm.
these suspicions of significant deficits.
Yeah, super. I'm totally bullish on silver too, as like uranium, for example. But it really is what it is. Finally, you need the physical metal to build something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who'd have thought?
It's not working with love and air only. That's right. Super.
Yeah.
Yeah, bullish on silver, bullish for Vizsla Silver. That is also for sure. Michael, thank you very much for your time. That was a great update. We look forward to your resource estimate and then, of course, for the PEA next year. And I would say bring that thing as fast as possible in production because you still can explore when you are producing.
That's right. Perfect.
Super. Thank you very much. All the best and take care of your son.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
All
Yeah,
right.
ladies and gentlemen, that was Michael Konnert, the CEO of Vizsla Silver, and you heard it, $48 million in the bank. The drills are turning, 7 drill rigs actually are turning, and they had a great new discovery with La Luisa, Vein, Copala is fantastic, Napoleon, Tajitos. Doesn't matter what we are talking about, those guys really find a lot of silver, a lot of gold, and also some base metals now like zinc and lead. And yeah, that is fantastic. The company is way too cheap. That is also for sure. We have a price target for Vizsla at least for the next foreseeable time for $3 to $3.50, longer term $5 to $7. This is what the charts are telling us. And yeah, I suggest really check out this fantastic silver company, and you would really be astonished how much meat is there on the bone. We look forward to the resource estimate and also the PEA, which should be done like within the next 9 months. This is my personal estimate. And yeah, they have already over 250, 260 million ounces silver, and it will be hopefully then much more than 300 million. Check it out. I'm a shareholder already. You should be too. Thanks for watching us, and bye bye from Switzerland.